I've been reminiscing about Bloodlines 1 recently. Remember those great times making your own character? It had its own backstory, its own name. Depending on what clan you picked, you had a very different experience. You were crafting your own adventure, and there was no real specific template. You had the freedom to be the vampire who you wanted to be. Well, the Chinese Room, developers behind Bloodlines 2, the sequel, they have decided all of that was garbage. Who wants to make their own vampire? Instead, you will be playing as a pre-existing vampire, and her name is Fire. That's right, her name. They seem to be determined to have you play as a female vampire, and all of that choice, all that freedom, it seems to have been thrown out of the window. These two gentlemen, here in this interview, they're going to go into a bit of detail on it, and we're going to watch some of this because there's actually new gameplay footage. Instead of just that combat, whatever we've seen previously, it looked really odd. I'm not even sure if it was gameplay. It looked like they crafted a 3D movie and pretended it was gameplay. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's the impression I got. But this time they are going to be showing us dialogue, the writing, the story. So let's see how well they do. To give some context, the guy on the left here, his name is Ian. I believe he is the narrative director or something close to that. So he's behind at least some of the story, certainly that narrative aspect. The guy on the right, I don't really know who he is. I don't really care. He's there to ask Ian questions that lead to an answer that make Chinese Room, the developer, look good. That's about it, so let's jump into it.
Good evening, Kindred, and welcome to this Halloween special where we are going to give you what you want. You will get Bloodlines.
I think they're going to give us what they want.
We will talk about character. We will talk about narrative. We will talk to the Chinese Room.
Hello, folks. I'm Ian. I'm narrative director at the Chinese Room. I've been in video games for about 30 years and film and TV, spending a lot of time around detective stories and horror. In particular, you might have played Amnesia Rebirth, which I was story lead.
Oof. Amnesia Rebirth. They were so close. When I heard Amnesia, I thought, hey, I love that series. I love The Dark Descent. I very much enjoyed Soma, another one of their games, has one of the greatest horror stories I think I've played in a game. But Amnesia Rebirth, it is the black sheep of that franchise. It is not good. And the worst of all, forget about the gameplay, it has a terrible story. It drags on. It's just super dull. And these are Ian's credentials, unfortunately. He might have been involved in some of the studio's earlier games, the Amnesia Studios' earlier titles, like The Dark Descent, which was really good. But when he was handed the keys, the game that he was solely responsible for, at least from a story point of view, it was Rebirth. If you haven't played it, avoid it. Maybe you'll take my word for it. It is no good. So we're not off to a very good start.
But tonight we're going to be talking about something a bit different. We're going to be looking slightly into the future.
So, why don't we get to what the people want and take a look at our character?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to look at a short video now, and we're going to step into the future in 2024, around about Christmas, to the Glacier Hotel in Seattle, and watch our lead character meet somebody.
So to paint a picture here, you have to play as Fire. It's a predetermined character. You cannot make your own. You might be able to make some background choices, but your character is predetermined. Now, and they may mention this, Fire can be supposedly a man or a woman. However, they keep referring to Fire as a she, so it seems like that's either the canon choice or what they're focused on. If you want to play as a guy, that seems to be outside the ordinary. You're not getting the experience that they want you to get. They're probably just including that to avoid some sort of backlash, but they keep saying Fire is a she. However, to keep everyone happy, you have a voice in your head, and you can see the name here, Fabian. So Fabian is essentially Johnny Silverhand. The voice in your head, I don't know if he makes decisions for you, but he sure seems to influence things. He might be more of a, is it Navi from Ocarina of Time? Nintendo do that a lot, where they have some sort of sidekick character who often treats you like you're an idiot and spells things out really obviously. So I'm not sure if Fabian is a genuinely necessary part of the story, or if he is essentially just there in your head to tell you, hey, you're an idiot, here's what's actually going on, because you probably couldn't understand the incredible depth of our writing, so we've got to make it really obvious, really spell it out for you. That's what it seems like it may be, but we'll have to see what we do, but certainly Johnny Silverhand, it seems like.
So then, you have me at a disadvantage. I assume, of course, that you know who I am? So the question is, who are you?
You can call me Fire. I seek an audience with the Prince of Seattle.
There we are. There is Fire. Everyone, take a good look, because this is going to be Bloodlines 2. You are Fire. You will notice post-alpha footage in the bottom left. Now, some people will say, they'll look at this, I'm one of these people, it looks pretty crap. The voice acting is dull. I would have to be convinced that it's not AI. It probably isn't, but it sounds absolutely terrible. It's just really flat. And the characters themselves, they remind me of only one thing, and I've come pre-prepared, because this may be familiar to you.
All right, what happened?
To who?
To whom? And your goddamn father. Sorry, my face is tired from dealing with everything. And right now, I just want to know what happened with Alec.
Never gets old. I remembered this like it was yesterday, and we've still got it again in 2023 with Vampire Bloodlines 2. We're back at it again, the same facial animations, incredible.
I've been led to believe you can help.
How delicious! Whatever could you possibly want with our beloved prince?
That's my business.
Now, Fire, that is not a fair exchange. You came to me, after all. Do try and play along, darling. It's so boring otherwise. Let's try again. Who are you, really?
Yawn. So these are our dialogue choices. Tell her everything. Reveal the mark, assert your status. I don't see anything related to skills here. And what I also see, this is a problem in other games like Fallout 4. This is what this whole predetermined protagonist, voice acted, this is what it reminds me of, Fallout 4. And I think there's some people who consider that one of the weaker Fallouts. And I reckon Exhibit A, most people's main reason for that is because of the voice protagonist, because it limits your options. Because they have to pay a voice actor, there's a limited amount of time they have in the studio, it just dumbs down all of the choices, and this looks exactly the same. You've got 3 choices here, and they do one of my pet peeves, where they give you a really simple description of what the answer's going to be that you come out with. And it's never anything close to what your character actually says. And I just hate it when you pick an option and it is almost nothing like what you've picked and what you thought was going to happen when you chose that option. So you've got no choice but to quick load. I bet this game won't have a real quick load. It'll be taking you back to an autosave, so it'll stuff you around massively if you were really set in your ways around how you wanted your character to act. This thing is a problem. It looks very much dumbed down. I think it's going to be consistent across the game as well. Given this is a major moment, this is you waking up apparently. This character has woken up. They are an elder, so they're an experienced vampire who's ready to take on Seattle, take on this part of the world. This is a huge first impression, a huge moment, and they're dumbing it down from here. So I can't see anything else in the game being complex. What it is looking like to me, because there's not much footage that they show today. This is a 17-minute interview and we get about 45 seconds of new footage. They wanted to show this, by the way, because everything else they've shown has been combat. So they said, oh no, everyone thinks it's going to be a pure action game with nothing else. We better appease fans by showing them our incredible writing. And I was half asleep at the end of this 30 seconds. It's dull. The delivery is just incredibly generic, and now the dialogue choices are very basic at best. So I'm not sure what they have here to get us excited about. People, fans of this game, the copers, they may refer to post-alpha footage in the bottom left here to kind of say, hey, this is evidence that this won't be the finished game. But this is their first impression, their chance to impress us, and this is what they've cooked up. This is what they've got to show for 3 years' work. If they haven't got this right when the game is coming out next year, I don't think it's going to get substantially better. The character looks like it's got those goggle eyes where it just sort of looks around the room everywhere and it's not even looking at the person they're speaking with. It doesn't feel immersive. They claim that this is immersive. They say, hey, the reason we've gone with a pre-voiced protagonist, you can't pick your own options at Liberty because you're limited to these dialogue options, a very limited amount. They're saying that is more immersive. That is garbage. The first Bloodlines, incredibly immersive without your character ever having to speak. Baldur's Gate 3, for the most part, you do not speak. They do use facial expressions to convey, but we've seen here that they failed in that department so far. Even Baldur's Gate 3 Early Access, 3 years before it came out, was doing more than this game is now. And I know it's only 30, 40 seconds, but again, this is a core part of the game. If they haven't gotten this right, how do you think it's going to be in the second half of the game that they probably haven't even started work on? I do not have confidence in this. It's just a train wreck. It's going to continue to be one. Some may say I'm prejudging, but the development of this game, it's just set up to fleece people. The people who are excited, they're going to get burned like they have in the past. And that's why I want to speak about it, because I can just see people buying the special edition and really being let down. I hate to see it because it happens too much and they shouldn't get away with it.
Someone rudely awoken from 100-year sleep, covered in thin blood vitae, with this mark on my hand, and no explanation why. I want answers.
Well, if that's all you wanted, why didn't you just say?
So that's it? You'll help?
And now
Bravo.
what you're saying is
Okay, I'm impressed. I'm really
truly a
impressed.
sneak peek.
They've
We are
been hard at work.
post-alpha, but this is game development. So certain sections may change. Certain sections may remain exactly the same.
I think it's going to remain exactly the same. That section we saw there, that is very unlikely to change, despite it being in alpha, as they've said, because it's such a core part of the experience. You're starting the game, and if they haven't got that right yet, what part of the game are they going to get right? All games these days are front-loaded, especially AAA games, where you start off, you do a bit of the main story. They know that's what reviewers are going to play, and that's where they're going to get their good scores, so they put effort into that. If this is effort, what we saw there, I don't know what we're going to get. There was very little in the way of dialogue options. It did not feel like the original Bloodlines. If we're talking about the vibe, it did not grip me at all the way the original Bloodlines did. And I will even say that the Hardsuit Labs version, as much as I had problems with it, there was Carl Ellison, there was some tedious stuff going on there, despite that, it actually somewhat felt like Bloodlines. It did, just a little bit. It felt like the same style, even though the substance probably wasn't going to be there. This just feels like a walking simulator, Telltale kind of game, and it'll probably have some action elements in it. That is the feel I've been getting from the way they've been talking and what we've actually seen in the footage. It feels like something out of a Telltale game. I reckon that's what we're going to get. It is not going to be like Bloodlines. It's not going to have well-crafted hubs, interesting side quests where you can make all of your own choices. I think it's going to be extremely limited in scope. I don't just mean the length of the game, but what you can actually do. It is not painting a pretty picture, and we could sit through 15 minutes of these guys patting themselves on the back around how great this game is going to be. The only thing I really heard, if I sort of pull back the curtain, pull back on the bullshit, is they didn't want to make a game where you can really make your own choices. They wanted to make a game where they've got a predetermined story. They've got this vampire, Fire, she's strong, she's powerful. If you want to play her as a guy, fine, we'll rush that part of it out because otherwise people will be really pissed at us because then it really isn't an RPG. You can't even choose the gender of your character. So they're going to begrudgingly allow you to be a guy as well, but your name is still going to be Fire. By the way, you're going to have no choice there. That name is locked in, and they'll have their preconceived narrative. You're going to be locked into that path. You can't really do much else. That's part of it. That's what they've pretty much confirmed. They talk about choices, but it just seems to be in ways that don't really matter. For instance, they keep talking up this idea of, you can put on a different outfit and characters will act differently towards you. Now, it's a first-person game, right? So if that's the case, when am I going to see my outfit? Only in cutscenes. That's going to be pretty much it, and I love first-person games. They're some of my favorite. That's what I find immersive, by the way. Not voice acting, but maybe a first-person RPG where I can do things my way. That is what I like. However, I really hate it when they make a big deal about choosing your own outfits, because the reason you're doing that is you're essentially being lazy because I can't see my character. Now, something like Cyberpunk, you can at least see yourself while you're on a motorbike or in certain situations like that, but in Bloodlines, it's probably only going to be when you're in one of these cutscenes where you can see your character and you've got a voiced protagonist. It's essentially not interactive. You can't do much with your character outside when the computer's got control of it, essentially. You're just standing there going through dialogue options. Why is that a huge feature they're hyping up when they've cut other stuff like in-depth dialogue, being able to create your own vampire, your own journey? That's all gone, but it's okay because probably 2 or 3 characters in the first area will react differently to your outfit, and then after that we're going to rush the rest of the game because we're at a really tight deadline. It's got to come out next year. The rest of the characters in the game, they won't even know that you're wearing any clothes. That's probably what's going to happen. Very common, where all the reaction happens in the initial part of the game. Nothing happens after that. I think it's what's going to happen here. What we will do, though, is go to the last bit of gameplay. So 17 minutes of these guys talking, 30, 45 seconds of footage at the start, a little bit here as well. So we'll see the last bit of actual new footage, and maybe this will be way better. Maybe I've been off. They just showed something that was middling to start. Maybe there's something incredible here to look at.
Sneak peek.
It's you. The No Man.
Willam, I take it. You had some interesting guests outside. Expecting trouble?
That depends. Why are you here?
Earlier tonight, another kindred by the name of Isabella used this mark to sap my power. Do you know anything about it?
It's so flat.
No. All I had to do was keep my head down for just a few more nights. He's hiding something.
Something about that other character, they've tried to make him look interesting, but he just comes across as Winnie the Pooh in Blood and Honey, where he just seems like some guy wandering around with a mask on. He's not to be taken seriously. It feels like a joke. It doesn't feel very serious at all. And here we've got the dialogue options again. And we've even got Fabian. I spoke about him being there as a sidekick who tells you the blatant obvious, because the player can't figure that out for themselves. And he said he's hiding something. Okay, so thank you for spelling that out. We're okay now, and we can use that new information from Fabian, the voice in our head, to judge how we're going to make a crack of this dialogue decision. What are we going to do?
Tell me, Willam, what rumors have you heard about me?
That you were there in Cairo. They called you the Slayer.
I have been many things to many people, and what will I be to you, Willam? And to this lonely, forgotten warehouse?
You're exactly what he said you'd be. I guess that makes it easier.
Makes what easier?
What happens next?
Oh my god.
Aren't traditionally
Telltale game with some combat sessions. That is what it's going to be. It's not going to be more than that. If you're expecting that sort of Deus Ex-y Vampire the Bloodlines experience where you can explore hubs, you're doing side quests in different locations, memorable characters. If you're expecting that, you are going to be disappointed. And if you weren't skeptical yet, something else that they do mention is that at the start, when the game releases, there will be 4 clans to choose from. But don't worry, because there is going to be a post-release update. You will be able to choose a 5th clan. All you're going to have to do is purchase the DLC. You're going to have to spend more money to get another clan, to get a crucial gameplay feature. Is 5 not enough for you? Well, don't worry, because the Chinese room have you covered. There will be a second DLC after that with the 6th clan member. Now, they've talked about it. When they mentioned DLC, I assume they would not have said that if they weren't planning to charge money for it. Maybe they will exceed expectations and they'll release it for free, but I would be shocked if they mentioned it if they weren't going to charge. And we know Paradox, they are obsessive when it comes to charging for DLC. They make a base game, they make all their money with all of these extra add-ons that they charge you for, that they put way less effort in. The cost for the content, it's nothing, because the base game, the amount of content you get there, probably okay, but then you have to pay half the box price of the original release for a sprinkle of content after that, and it's going to be the same in Bloodlines 2. They are fleecing people. They are trying to recoup their money from spending so much on the Hardsuit Labs project. They botched it, they lost all of their funds, and now they've gone to the Chinese room, to Sumo Digital, their publisher, to try and get this game out in a hurry. It's going to be a Telltale game. It's going to be absolutely limited in scope. This character, flat, boring, bland, not a role-playing game in the traditional sense. They've proved it today. They've come out mask off and said, hey guys, we know what you want. You don't want to create your own character. We're going to do it all for you. We know better than you how to enjoy a game. We know what immersion is. And this is what they've come up with. This is what they've got to show for it. Be very skeptical. I'm happy to be proven wrong. I've said it before, but they keep releasing information that suggests the worst. So, I am going to hit you with the most obvious piece of advice ever. Do not pre-order. I will see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.